There, my name is BERNALDEZ III. I am going to explain to you what is ballistic. So, ballistic. Ballistic is a Greek word is balin, means to throw. So, ballistic is the science that deals with the motion, behavior, and effects of projectiles, especially bullets, gravity, bombs, rockets, or ballistic science or art designing and hurling projectiles so as to achieve a desired performance. So ballistic is a body which is free to move, behave and modified in appearance, concur or texture by ambient conditions, substances or forces as by the pressure of gases in a gun, by rifling in a barrel, by gravity, by temperature or by air particle. So firearms ballistics. Information is used in forensic science separately from the ballistic information. So firearms and tools mark examination involves analyzing firearms, ammunition, and tool marks evidence in order to establish whether a certain firearm or tool was used in the commission of a crime. So there are four ballistic subdivided into internal ballistic, transitional ballistic, external ballistic, and terminal ballistic. So number one, internal ballistic is the study of processes originally accelerating the projectile. For example, the passage of the bullet through the barrel of the rifle. Number two, transition ballistics. The study of the projectile's behavior when it leaves the barrel and the pressure behind the projectile is equalized. External ballistic. External ballistic is the study of the passage of the projectile through space or the air. And the last one is terminal ballistics. The study of the interaction of a projectile with its target, whether that be a flesh for a hunting bullet, steel for a anti-tank round, or even furnace slug for an industrial slug disruptor. So, ballista is a gigantic bow or catapult which was used to hurl large objects such as stones at a particular distance to deter animals or any enemy forces. Today the word ballistic is frequently used synonymously in the press and in the police parlance to firearms identification. So ballistic is a science itself because it evolved from systematic knowledge, research, and development training, experience, and education for those who pioneered in this field. Technically speaking, it refers to the science of firearms identification, which involves the scientific examination of ballistic exhibits, such as fire bullets, fire shells, firearms, and allied matters used in a crime. So, in a legal speaking, ballistic is the microscopic examination of fired cartridge cases and bullets together with a recorded and presentation by means of photography or what is revealed by the microscope. So, ballistic theory. Ballistic theory is the scientific study of the propulsion and motion of a projectile such as bullets, artillery shells, rockets, and guided missiles. Also includes the study of the distracted action for the projectile. So the drag of projectile moving head on is now usually divided into the three parts. Number one, bow resistance, two skin friction, and three base drags. So bow resistance due to the air pressure at the head of the projectile. Skin friction caused by the friction of air moving along the middle portion of the body. The last is base drag due to the under pressure and the disturbance of the air behind the base. So There are the following pioneers in study for projectile: Galileo, Newton, and Leibniz established the principle of dynamic and the methods of calculus studies which helped the rapid development of external ballistic. Number 2, Galileo and Newton were both interested in force called air-resistant, now usually called aerodynamic drag, which reduced the speed of the projectile. In 1707, Cassini, an astronomer, suggested measuring firearm muzzle velocity. Let's proceed to interior ballistic. Interior ballistic is the study of motion of projectile within the gun barrel. The time during which the projectile is influenced by interior ballistic is very short, from the release of the firing pin to the movement to the sound of the shot can be heard as it leaves the muzzle occupies only about 0.1 second in a modern rifle. So, interior ballistic involves ignition of primer. Number 2, flames is produced. Combustion of the gunpowder. Energy that is generated. Force pressure developed. Velocity of the bullets from the chamber to the muzzle. Rotation of the bullet. Engraving of the cylindrical surface of the bullet. Interior ballistic deals with the temperature, volume, and the pressure of the gases resulting from gas combustion propellant charge in the gun. It also deals with the work performed by the expansion of these gases on the gun, its cartridge, and the projectile. Some of the critical elements involved in the study of interior ballistic are relation of weight of charge of the weight of the projectile, the length of the bore, the optimized size, shape, and density of the propellant grains for different guns related. So, the British engineering Benjamin Robbins conducted many experiments in interior ballistic. His findings just entitle him to be called the father of modern gunnery. So, in the late 18th century, Anglo-American physicist Benjamin Thompson made the first attempt to measure the pressure generated by the gunpowder. So, the account of his experiment was the most important contribution in interior ballistic have been made up that time. So, in 1760, French ballistician determined the relationship of muzzle velocity to the length of the barrel by measuring the velocity of a musket ball, or musket ball is yung bangag. So, and cutting off the portion of the barrel before taking the velocity of the next shot. By using the result of the experiment and advance in chemistry and thermodynamic, ballistician developed formula showing the relationship between the muzzle and velocity and the weight and the shape of the projectile weight, type, and grain size of powder charge. So, related terms in ballistic. So, the related terms in ballistic is: number 1, action, term referring to the mechanism of a firearm. 2, burning rate, an arbitrary index of the quickness the burning propellant changes in the gas and controlled by the chemical composition, the size, and the shape of the propellant grains. So, number 3 is book density, the ratio and the weight of a given volume powder versus the weight of the same volume of water. Number 5, chamber pressure. Chamber pressure is the pressure generated within the chamber erroneously called breech pressure. Number 5, charge weight to bullet weight ratio. This is the ratio of the weight of the powder charged to the weight of the projectile. Number 6, detonation chemical rearrangement of molecule into gas instead of solid to cause the high explosive to exert full power of shock, and the speed of detonation varies in a different explosive, but in the sum it is the high of 7,000 yards in a second. Number 7, energy. It's a measure to foot-pounds, and one of the foot-pounds means that amount of energy which would be capable of lifting a weight of the pound through the distance of the foot. Drop block action. So drop block action is a type of action which the breech block rises and forces the vertically in the catch in the receiver side walls. Deliver equated as a rule. Number 8, expansion ratio. The ratio of the capacity of the powder chamber plus borne in grains of water to the capacity of the powder chamber in the grains of water. Number 9, foot-pound. The amount of work required to raise 1 pound 1 foot high against the force of gravity. So number 10, foot-second. Velocity expressed in the foot per second. Gas is a fluid resulting from the combustion of a gunpowder with a relative great expansion and spontaneous tendency. Number 12, hang fire occurs with a cartridge fails to explode on time or delayed in firing. So 13, knocking power. The power of the bullet which delivers a very heavy paralyzing blow that put the victim down and made the recover if the wound inflicted upon is not fatal. So loading this density. Ratio of the weight of the powder charged on the capacity of the powder chamber. It usually expresses the ratio of the charge weight to the capacity powder chamber in the grains of water. So generally, the more fully the powder charge fills the case, the more consistent and accurate load will be. On the other hand, if the loading density is too low, so too much free space in the case, it can cause erratic ignition, change in the pressure curves, moving peak towards the muzzle, or even overly rapid burning or detonation of the powder charge. So one reason manual lists minimum or starting loads. So number 15, so misfire, totally failure of a cartridge to discharge. The different from hang fire, which is merely a delayed combustion, while misfire a complete failure even to start combustion. Number 16, powder chamber capacity. As with most interior ballistic capacity measurements, it is usually expressed in grains of water, determined by measuring the width of the water and fire case from the test fire can contain the bullet seated to a normal depth. So number 17, pressure, outward push of gases from powder combustion against cartridge case, chamber, and bore. Sectional density. It is the ratio of the bullet width sectional density. The ratio of the bullet's weight pounds in the diameter. So 19 psi or pounds per square inches. It is often designated as PSIA. So the designated is now used of a significant measure of the chamber pressure taken with a piezoelectric device or piezoelectric units operate in a similar fashion of the copper crushing units but use of the reusable crystal or crusher that changes the its properties in response the pulse of the history can be recorded or displayed. So 20, recoil, the equal and opposite the equal and opposite reaction of the gun against the forward movement of the bullet during the explosion. So 21, residual pressure, the pressure remaining in the chamber after the bullet has left the barrel. So, and let's go to the exterior ballistic. So exterior ballistic deals with the motion of the projectile from the time that they leave the muzzle of the firearm to the time they hit the target. The flight of most bullet or projectile does not exceed 30 seconds at the maximum range, with almost any firearm is obtained at elevation of about 33. So condition refers to the natural laws. So velocity, speed per unit of time. Example, M16, 3,000 to 300 feet, 3,000 to 300 feet seconds, or depends of the what rifle that you unsa imong gigamit nga rifle, unsa nga kakusgon, or unsa magdepende siya sa iyang kung 3,300 ba siya ka feet or sa seconds maabot sa iyang target. So energy, fatal current of a bullet, the unstable rotating motion of a bullet. So gyroscopic action refers to the stillness of the rotating motion and attained in the highest momentum or stability in flight and penetrating power. So the elements of the exterior ballistic such as shape, caliber, weight, initial velocities, rotation, air resistance, and gravity to determine the path of the projectile from the time it leaves the gun until it reaches the target. So two methods have been used to determine the velocity of the projectile after it leaves the gun. So one method measure the momentum of the projectile. Other measure the time required for the projectile to travel a given distance. First method is the older and the past, when guns and projectile were small, velocity low, and range short. The result were sufficiently accurate for most practical purposes. So ballistic is the pendulum and the gun pendulum were used to measure projectile momentum, but their device has been supplanted by chipping and more accurate machine working on the principle of the second method. So further exterior or external ballistics refers to the attributes and movements of the bullets after it has left the gun muzzle. It includes muzzle blast, muzzle energy, and trajectory. So muzzle blast, the noise created at the muzzle point of the gun due to the sudden escape of the expanding gas coming in the contact with the air in the surrounding atmosphere at the muzzle point. And muzzle energy generated at the muzzle point. So, and the last is trajectory, the actual curve path of the bullet during its flight from the gun muzzle to the target. So, the following are the kinds of trajectory: straight horizontal line, parabola like flight, vertical drop, or range, the straight distance between the muzzle point and the target. So accurate range, or atong naibalan nga effective range, is the distance within the shooter's control of his shots, meaning he can place his shots at the desired spots. So ang maximum range is the farthest distance that a projectile can be propelled from a firearm. So, while the range at which original pistol and the revolver are supposed to be effective in only 50 to 70 yards, so all of them can send their bullets much farther than the capable inflicting fatal wounds in distance up to 1 mile. Depending on the caliber of gunpowder content, depende sa mga caliber sa mga pusil or gunpowder nga imong gigamit. So, velocity rate of the speed of bullets per unit of time. Long barrel rifle. So, long barrel rifle is those mga rifle like M16, M14. So, there, maabot sila 3,000 yards accurate range and its high muzzle velocity of 1,000 to 400 feet per second. So, bullet from rifle weapon is spin at 2,300 revolution per second, but over the first few yards of trajectory, distance varies with the weapon. Their flight is slightly unstable. The end of the projectile wobbles before it picks a smooth flight path with a phenomenon called tail wag. It is considerable important of evaluating gunshot wounds. A bullet with tail wag does not strike a target clearly. So, air resistance. Resistance encountered by the bullet while in flight. Pull of gravity, downward direction of the bullet while in flight. Penetration, depth of entry of the target. So, and that's all. Thank you, sir.